Protests continue in the metro. The latest from Minneapolis: increased demand for self-defense gear, a coronavirus vaccine in the works, and Crayola rolling a new line of colors. Gina Bullard from KCTV5 News this morning is here with a look at what's making news today. Gina, welcome and thank you for coming on the show. We've talked a lot about the protests in Kansas City over the last several days. Talk a little bit of yesterday's and what's the latest with what's happening today.
Yeah, so this was day 5, and it was the most peaceful day yet. That's what police have said. They arrested about 20 people. There was no tear gas. There was also no curfew last night, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But there is this sense of de-escalation, which they're very excited about, police and protesters alike. Tonight now is the Unity March, and that's at 6:30. It starts at the Nelson Atkins, and police are going to be joining protesters, and they're going to march together. Some protesters are saying they believe like this is just a PR stunt. You know, police have had 5 days to enter and show their support to do something, and they really haven't. But people are still planning on showing up. We are going to stay in constant contact with the police, though, because obviously weather might be a factor tonight. So we'll let everybody know what happens throughout the day, but it is just showing some solidarity in our city.
Yeah, and I think everybody is obviously praying for the best outcome that we can get out of this. So we're just hoping that, you know, we can pull together. What's the latest that we've learned about what's caused the protest? Obviously, the death of George Floyd up in Minneapolis. That was now over a week ago.
Right.
What's the latest in that case?
Yeah, so there have been some updates coming from Minneapolis. So the latest is that the public school board voted unanimously to end their $1 million contract with the police department, which is just, you know, talk about sending a message.
Yeah.
Also, the district says the actions of the officers in Floyd's death run counter to the district's values, and that's why they ended this contract with the school. State of Minnesota, they filed a civil rights charge against Minneapolis Police Department in Floyd's death also. So there are some big changes happening there. It's
one thing just to make a statement, but then another to make an action that digs into the police department's budget like that. $1 million. That's something else. Well, moving on, there's kind of a new Amazon's top-selling items are kind of showing us how the protests are kind of shaping some of our shopping items. What's kind of the latest here?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So pepper spray and then Black Lives Matter t-shirts. Those are some of the best-selling items right now on Amazon. So pocket-sized pepper spray with the keychain attachment on the top right there that you're seeing. This is the top-selling item in the sports and outdoor category. That was yesterday. Also, there's been, of course, this increased demand for self-defense gear as protests do turn violent. We did a story this morning on KCTV5 News this morning that gun sales are through the roof right now. People are thinking about personal protection. Also, the Black Lives Matter t-shirts, those accounted for 7 of Amazon's top 15 items when it comes to apparel. So people are making their voices heard, and Amazon, which we've seen, it kind of gives a good pulse of what people are doing and thinking. This is falling right on trend to that.
Interesting. And back onto that gun sales thing, I remember we did a story, I think you and I sat here together and talked about how gun sales were rocketing through the roof a couple months ago at the beginning of the pandemic. So that's interesting. Yeah. Well, speaking of coronavirus and the pandemic, there maybe is news about a vaccine on the horizon here?
Yeah, we've been kind of talking about vaccines. Dr. Anthony Fauci is now saying that we should have 100 million doses of a vaccine by the end of the year.
That's great news.
Yeah, it seems very soon, right? We've been talking about at least a year out. So end of the year, 100 million. The final trials will go on this summer, by midsummer. The U.S. Surgeon General is warning that these protests, though, this could really impact things and change things and contribute to the spike in the nation's coronavirus tests. And we just talked about yesterday, authorities here are saying it's going to take about 2 weeks once the protests die down before we can actually see what kind of impact they had on coronavirus cases here.
Well, I mean, never mind. I'm not going to. I was going to say, no, because a lot of the folks that you see out protesting are younger, and a lot of the times that we've talked about the pandemic and coronavirus, it seems to not have as much of effect on younger people, but just interesting. So yeah,
protect yourself, wear the mask.
Obviously, wear the mask and protect yourself and do what you can do. But last story is we're talking about Crayolas, crowns, crayons. Which one do you say?
I say crayons, but that's because
okay.
I'm from the Northeast.
What's the latest with the new colors they have?
Yeah, so they did something really cool. They came out with this new line in honor of International Diversity Day. Check these out. They're called Colors of the World. 24 crayons. They represent 40 global skin tones. Kids can finally, represent themselves while they're coloring accurately through their artwork, and just want to foster this sense of greater belonging and acceptance.
How cool is that?
Yes.
Love to be able to do that. Very cool. Gina Bullard, she's very cool, and she says,
thanks, Bill.
How do you say crayons?
Crayons.
Crayons.
Yeah, not
Crayons.
a crown.
Crowns. Crayons. Belinda, over to you.